This video is another look at one of the older comics from Oakwood Anthology, and it's about a couple named Jean and Blanche. And these two work on the solar fields in Hiawatha, and they're about to have a complication in their life which forces them to run from the life they've known, and they get swept up into a group of desert-faring pirate type, the Sweatpants Ninja crew. They get swept up with the Sweatpants Ninja crew. Without any further delay, we're going to get into Sweatpants Ninjas, Jean and Blanche. Now, I've got to let you know right up front that I thought it would be cute back in 2008 to name one character Jean and one character Allele. So that's why it says Allele Rugosa right here. But Jean and Allele is so on the nose and overt, and that's not like how we like to do it. So just to let you know, although it says Allie or Allele in this story, her name has retroactively been changed to Blanche. So Jean and Blanche. And you have Blanche here, and it's pretty hot. She's looking at the fan. I'll just read what it says here. Blanche Rugosa, age 23, took the day off from work to visit a physician's assistant. She's been feeling queasy this week. This is the third morning in a row she's thrown up. As she waits, a small fan barely keeps the heat at bay. The zhzz of the fan has a hypnotizing effect. Now, of course, there's this poster here that says, "Save our species. Fertility rates are dropping. You can help. Donate genetic materials." And then it's got a little logo that looks like a Y. It says Y Control. This is a Y Control propaganda poster. It's got a friendly-looking bald guy on there. And this was put out by Thayer Corporation's subsidiary, Y Control. This video is in the middle of the 2020s, into the late 2020s. And at this time, it's well known that quantum realignment phenomena was sort of a cosmic phenomena that everyone experienced across the globe as they inhaled the slowly spreading particulate that came from that explosion. And although most people did not die from it, there was an after effect. Shortly after the population collectively experienced the quantum realignment phenomena, keen observers noticed that there were few boys being born. What began as a mild oddity soon grew into full-blown alarm as scientists investigated the issue. They discovered that the Y chromosome was no longer existent in the vast majority of male sex cells. Though reproduction was still possible, newborns after G-Day were nearly always female. The reason for this anomaly was never fully understood, but the gender imbalance became undeniable. Concerned researchers named this unexplained malady Fragile Y syndrome. So the Y chromosome kind of gets phased out. Only a few people have that left. Few men were unaffected by Fragile Y. These men, called carriers, were not easily spotted. Typically, they were only identified after an unregistered male pregnancy was discovered. It was the mandated responsibility of all physicians to report such pregnancies to Y Control, no matter their personal opinions on the organization. Y Control agents then ascertained the identity and location of the father and sent a team for him. Once located, the carrier was collected and drafted into the much-debated repopulation program, which is sort of like a breeding farm. The guys are treated like prisoners. They're just forced to do their thing for the good of humanity, and no one really wants to go there. It sounds like it might be a dream, go to a sex farm or whatever if you're a guy, but it's not that great. They're basically like stallions, studs. They're studded out for the good of humanity. So that forms the outline for what we're going to discuss in this video. Dr. Swan. Dr. Swan enters. She radiates kindness. Blanche likes her right away. "How are you feeling today?" Dr. Swan asks. "Queasy. I threw up this morning." Dr. Swan makes a few notes on her clipboard before continuing her examination of the young patient. Deep breaths, please. Dr. Swan asks a most important question. "Have you been drinking enough water?" So if you remember from our other video, The Miraculous Blunder of Quantum Enrichment, you will know that it got super hot. Everyone's living in a very hot world right now because the blue sky turned green, and green skies reflect less ultraviolet radiation than blue. So it's extremely hot out there, and everyone needs to drink a lot of water. Blanche says, "I had 3 glasses this morning, doctor." And Dr. Swan says, "Glasses? From the tap?" Blanche is ashamed by Dr. Swan's tone. Everyone knows pipe water is dirty, so it's kind of a taboo. She says, "I have a filter." She's trying to save face here. She doesn't want to admit to the fact that she's drinking directly from the filter. Blanche knows it's dangerous to drink from the pipes, but it's so hot outside this week. Dr. Swan gives the classic doctor's message here in this day and age. You should avoid drinking from the old water system, even if you have a filter. Blanche says, I'm sorry, doctor, I know it's gross. Even the best filters don't catch everything. You could still ingest many hazardous compounds if you risk drinking from the pipes. Now we get down to business. Dr. Swan puts on her bandana. Okay, lie down, please, Miss Rugosa. I'm going to try to gauge your energy fields. Yeah, at this time, people are a lot more open-minded in the Oakwood universe about alternative medicine styles, and there's a lot of alternative medicines that have taken root. Doctors are allowed to practice based on certain assumptions that we've decided just to throw out. They actually believe in energy fields and what we would consider to be foo-foo, new agey kind of medicine. But Dr. Swan is into energy fields, so she's a trained Reiki healer or a trained Reiki physician or a trained energy field physician or some such, and she is getting into it. Even Blanche is kind of doubtful. Energy field, does this actually work? It's not exact, but it can be helpful. Could you please tell me more about your queasiness? Blanche says, I feel detached. I feel spacey. I can't focus at work. Here we see her at her workbench at the Hiawatha solar field. She's working on a converter and she drops it. There's a loud clank. Yesterday I dropped a converter and Honcho screamed at me for half an hour. I've been really stressed out. She's looking at the poster on the wall that says Y Control. She kind of knows what's coming. Dr. Swan says, relax. Tell me more about the place you work. And we get a great shot of the solar fields in Hiawatha. I work in the sun fields in Hiawatha. And then we cut to her boyfriend, Gene Waterman, and the boss that was already mentioned, Honcho. Honcho says, Gene, what's going on? What are you doing to panel number 8? Gene says, sorry, Honcho, the coolant is leaking. I have to turn it over to patch the tube before the sun fries the whole thing. Do it very quickly or the bottom will melt. Do you hear me? Sure thing, boss. Why are you so angry today, Honcho? Jean's looking over at Blanche's empty table. She's got a lucky one. She's right under the tree there. She works on the converters in the shade. Honcho seems to read Jean's mind. Blanche Rugosa isn't at her table today, and Honcho knows how much Jean misses her. I'm not angry, Jean. I'm concerned for you. You need some help. Colby gets on his megaphone and calls Colby over. Now, this is Colby Feliciano. And Honcho likes to make trouble. He knows that Jean loves Blanche, and he also knows that Colby is into Jean. So he likes to play these silly games and see if he can create tension in the workplace, romantic tension, and give trouble for Jean. Colby appears, reporting for duty. How can I assist? Honcho slyly says, Jean needs help fixing solar panel number 8. Give him a hand, why don't you? Hi, Jean. Honcho says you need some help over here. And Jean says, hold this pipe in place while I patch the cooling tube. So some of these guys are, like Blanche, work on converters. And some of these guys, like Jean, go around making sure that the hot as heck sun does not bake the solar panels in 0 time flat. He's mostly in charge of making sure that the panels are cooled and correctly maintained, so that if one of them gets too hot, he's there to cool it down. Colby says, Honcho's really funny. He got so freaked out when you turned over the solar panel, like he thought it was going to melt right away. And Jean is nonplussed. He knows Colby's into him, and he knows that he likes Blanche. He says, sun damage can accumulate very quickly. It's best to minimize exposure to the bottom. And Colby says, oh, really, Jean? Is it best to minimize exposure to the bottom? She's talking about her butt. She's being, well, I'm not going to tell you how she's being. She says, is it best to minimize exposure to the bottom? He says, yep, Colby, it really is. That should do it. Hit the coolant injection switch. Blink. Okay, let's flip it over. And Honcho's not giving up. Good work, you two. You make a good team. Now go take a water break. So he's a supervisor. He rides around on horses, he wears a sun hat, and he makes sure that everyone working in the fields is properly hydrated. So he mandates water breaks. Jean says, I'm not thirsty, even though he is, but he just doesn't want to hang out with Colby on a mandated water break. Honcho says, you're confused from heat exhaustion. Go get a drink and put on your sun hat. That's how he says sun hat. He's got an accent. Put on your sun hat. Next panel, they're wearing their sun hats. Colby, does it seem extra hot outside to you? Ha ha ha, that's funny. It's been hot since the day I was born. Yeah. You know, Jean, it has been really, really hot outside this week now that I think about it. Jean says the panels are being pushed to their limits. If it gets much hotter, we'll all be dead. Colby's cheerful. All the enriched fuel is nearly burned up. Everyone knows the temperature will stabilize after that. So that's what they've been told all this time. They say there's some enriched fuel in the atmosphere for the last 2 decades, and once it all burns up, the temperature will stabilize. But Jean's not so sure of that. We don't know that for sure. That's just what they tell us. Besides, the algae fields aren't cleaning the atmosphere like they're supposed to. If that doesn't start happening soon, it won't matter how many solar panel fields we grow. Colby's like, So Jean, where's Blanche today? This is what's really on her mind. She's really into Jean. She knows he's got a girlfriend, but she doesn't care. Jean humors her. She went to see a doctor in El Cielo. El Cielo is the place where they have all the algae ponds, and it's where Dr. Swan's office is. So we go back to El Cielo, where Blanche is laying on the doctor's table one more time. Can you sense anything, Dr. Swan? I'm sensing something unusual in your system. Something in this region. Hands hovering over the ovaries. Yes, that's the spot where I've been feeling so queasy. Please inhale and exhale slowly, Dr. Swan says. Okay, Mrs. Rugosa. I'm going to focus on this region more deeply. Please try and relax. That will help. Back to the solar fields, Colby asks, is she all right? She's been getting nauseous, woozy. She had a real hard time this morning and last. Has she been drinking from the pipes without a filter? See, she knows the taboo. Jean senses her tone. You don't like Blanche very much, do you, Colby? Of course I do. She's an angel. So, has she been drinking from the pipes? And Jean's offended. No! Blanche does not drink pipe water without a filter. Just cut it out, Colby. Relax, Waterman. I was only teasing. We've all done it on our worst day. Anyway, did you hear about the plans for the new infrastructure? Thayer says we could have running water again. Jean says, yeah, but will it be clean? He's the eternal pessimist. That's his nature. He realizes that nothing's going how they said it was going to go. Everything's looking bleaker and bleaker. So even if she supplies this nugget of hope, he's dubious. He's like, sure, but will it be clean? Here we have an interesting shot. Now, these red trucks are Thayer Corporation's trucks, and they are the lifeblood of society. You notice there's no other cars on the road because at this time, energy is scarce. And so only Thayer can really afford to keep vehicles on the road. And they're remotely operated. There's a whole crew of computer programmers who deal with keeping these trucks going smoothly. But yeah, these red trucks are characteristic. And they're everywhere because Thayer Corporation's control and influence is everywhere. Back to the doctor's office, Dr. Swan is totally focusing her Reiki powers on Blanche here. And we got Colby saying, Jean, have you and Blanche... have you had sex with her? And this is right about the time that Dr. Swan realizes what's going on. And she says, I believe I found the anomaly. Miss Rugosa, are you sexually active? And then it goes to both of them together and they're saying, don't ask. We knew from the opening page when it said she was getting sick every morning that she's pregnant. And you may have gathered from my discussion of the Fragile Y syndrome that Jean is in fact one of these carriers. What's going to happen here is that Dr. Swan investigates Blanche's pregnancy and finds out that there's actually a boy in there. And so, like I said before, all physicians are required to report what they call like wild male births to Y control so that men who are still carrying the Y chromosome can be apprehended and taken into the repopulation initiative. This is big times ahead for Jean and Blanche. They have to go on the run because they've got this unauthorized male pregnancy. This is where chapter 1 ends, but I'm about to show you part of chapter 2. These pages were illustrated, but the issue was not completed, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. So here you go. This is definitely sometime later. You can see that Blanche is pregnant there in the back. They're throwing clothes into their suitcase with such force that it creates this little field, this little explosion field. And then he's looking at his toothbrush like, can I take this with me? And he decides yes. And then he zips up his bag and it makes the sound like, I guess it makes the sound like blag. They're sneaking away from the Hiawatha Regional Solar Fields and he's got his arm around Blanche and he's like, we're going to get out of here. She's like, I think someone's coming. Maybe if we run fast enough, we can escape. And then they bump into old Honcho and Jean goes out and spooks the horse so that the horse throws Honcho down. And then they're talking with Honcho. And this is where Honcho, who even though he's kind of a scoundrel, he lets him go. It shows his true character. They're on their way. So I hope you enjoyed Sweatpants Ninjas, Jean and Blanche. They're going to encounter the other Sweatpants Ninjas later on.